Hey friends, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Win at life. Today we're studying Daf Samach Tes, Daf 69 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, what can I say about Daf Samach Tes other than that I gotta hustle because Shabbos starts in like a half an hour. Doesn't leave us much time. But I don't know. We'll figure it out. I learned this first part of the daf. I learned at a chasana. That the chasana was at the other week. So I learned the last part of it at the chuppah. Last part of it I learned at the chuppah. I didn't do such a great job, but this morning I went over it and did a better job. So hopefully I remember it. Anyways, but I don't know. So much has happened since this morning. Has so much happened? Stuff has happened since this morning. I had a meeting just now in the afternoon. I usually don't work Friday afternoons, but alright, we gotta get moving over here. So the point being, I don't even know what's going on, so we're just gonna jump right in. So let's see. We're on Samach Ches Beis about okay, here we go. Alright, Babel stretch, not a Babel yawn. Speaking of Babel yawn, I saw Rabbi Yisrael today. He didn't see me, but I saw him. I was thinking if he would see me, instead of waving, I would just cover my mouth and go, oh. Alright. When Daf Samach Ches is about, 10-15 lines from the bottom. Amar Funa, Amar Rebbe. Gewaldig. It says Rav Huna in the name of Rebbe. I guess what I'm saying is, we'll get as far as we can get before Shabbat starts, and then pick it up from there afterwards, I guess. It says Rav Huna in the name of Rebbe, Parnase. Oh. So when it comes to, what's Parnase? Nedunya. When it comes to the Nedunya, to the dowry, Eino Ketnai Ksuba. Oh. So the Parnase, the dowry, is not like the Tnai Ksuba. My Eino Ketnai Ksuba. What does it mean that the dowry is not like the Tnai Ksuba? In what sense? What's Tnai Ksuba? Mizoinus. So the dowry is not like the Mizoinus. In what sense, right? So my Tnai Ksuba, what does it mean that the dowry is not like the Tnai Ksuba? So inema de ilu parnose taifami mishabde. So if it means that, well, when it comes to the dowry, you could chap it around from the chosim mishubadim. So if you have the brothers inherit the father's property, and I don't know, maybe they take out a loan and they set their property as a lien. Right, there's a lien on the property to a loan, and then the Gemara is actually going to say a little bit further on, does it mean that they sold the property, or maybe simply that there's a lien on it? But I don't know. So let's say they sold it. So if we're saying that, right? So dilu parnaso taifim mishabde, that let's say there was a loan and they put a lien on the property, and then I guess maybe they didn't pay it back, so it got sold, or no, meaning. So, or I guess maybe you could say that there's a lien on the property to pay for the dowry, i.e. if they sell their property and now there's no money for their dowry, they can just go to like the person who they sold it to and then be like, yo, you can't have that. That's like my dowry property. So, utnai ksuba lo tarfim mishabde, whereas mizoinus, when it comes to mizoinus, if they sell the property to somebody else, they would not be allowed to say, hey, you can't buy that. That's our mizoinus. So, my kamashmalon, amaisim b'chol yom, motzin the farnosov and motzin the mizonis. Well, we don't have to teach that, right? Rav Huna wouldn't have to teach that, it's not a chiddush to say that the dowry can be chapterain from property that was sold to somebody else, whereas mizonis cannot. I mean, we see that every day. People, right, that's what they do. I wouldn't need Rav Huna to teach me that. Maybe we'll say that the difference is that the dowry can also be collected from movable objects, whereas the mizoinus can only be chapterain from karka, from property, not from movable objects. L'Rebbe, idi ve'idi, migabya gabya. But that's not true, because actually both the nedunya and the mizoinus would be able to be collected from metaltalin. The Tanya is willing to buy. that whether it is property or whether it's movable objects, motzin lemazon isha v'labonis divei Rabbi. You can chaperein mizonis as well as right. So motzin lemazon isha v'labonis divei Rabbi. Right. Rabbi says that even mizonis you could chaperein from metaltalin. Right. So don't say that what Rabbi is saying is that the nedunya can be chaperein from metaltalin, but mizonis cannot, because we see that Rabbi says that mizonis as well can be chapterein from metaltalin. So Ella, my parnose. So what is Ksubis? So what does it mean that the nedunya is not like the mizonis? It's like we learn in the Brisa, Omer al yazonu benosov minchosai ein shemin lo. That if a fellow who's dying says that his daughters are unable to get mizonis from his property, ein shomin lo, we do not listen to him. Al yisparnasu benosov minchosov. But if he says that their dowries should not be paid from his property, well then shomin lo, we listen to him. Shapanosa ein kitnai ksube, because since the dowry is not like a t'nai ksube, so then right, it's not his responsibility to make sure that his daughters have a dowry. Right? It is his responsibility to make sure that his daughters have mizonis, but not that his daughters have a dowry. And therefore, if he says that he doesn't want his daughters to have a dowry from his property after he dies, we would listen to him. Okay, so in that sense, dowry is not like mizonis. That mizonis, he can't just say that he doesn't want his daughters to get it after he dies from his property, whereas the dowry can say that. Talalei Rav liRebbi beinei chite. Okay, so Rav wrote a letter to his teacher Rebbe, and in between the lines he wrote Ha'achen sheshibdu mau. So if you have the father died and there's brothers, there's sisters, and the brothers took the property and there's a lien now on the property. So mahu. So what do they do? So Yosef Reb Chia Kame. So Reb Chia was before Rebbe, and Omar Le. And Reb Chia says to Rebbe, what does it mean that the brothers were mishabed the property? Machru o mishkenu? Doesn't mean that they actually sold the property to somebody else. Right? So I mean, you have these sisters, and the sisters want to collect the dowry, and the thing is, the property that they would collect the dowry from has a lien on it. So the question is, did they actually sell it to somebody else? Did they sell it to a third party? And now the question is, can she chap it around from the third party? Or is the question simply that there's a lien on it? They took out a loan or something, put a lien on the property. The question is now, can she chap around from this property that now has a lien on it? So Omar Le, so Rebbe says to Reb Chia, "My nafkamine, bein machru, my nafkamine. Who cares? Bein machru, bein shemishkenu. Whether they sold the property to somebody else or whether they simply made it like a collateral for a loan. Motziin lefarnose, bein motziin lemizonis. You would be able to chaperein from the property for a dowry, but not for mizonos, right? So if you have this nechosim mishubadim, whether the property was sold, whether there was simply, right, it was used as a collateral, for a dowry you'd be able to chaperein, but for mizonos you would not be able to chaperein. V'Rav. Now, Rav, imachru kami ba'yale nichtov le'machru, yimishkenu kami ba'yale nichtov le'mishkenu. Now, Rav, who wrote this question between the lines in the letter, so the question is, what was he looking to find out? Was he looking to find out about a situation where the brothers sold the property, or where they made it a collateral for a loan? So Rav Tarvayu kami ba'yale. Well, Rav wanted to know both situations. Iksivna le machru, and he figured if he would write in the letter simply machru, if they sold it, well then hanicha yishalach li demotziin, well that would be all fine and good if you would say that they would be able to chaparain for the nedunya from the property that was sold. Kol shekain mishkenu. And if they would be able to chaparain from the property that was sold, then certainly the property that is simply a collateral that hasn't actually yet been sold. Ishalach le ein motzin. However, if he would say, no, you cannot chaparain from the third party, akati mishkenu kami bayili, I'd still then wouldn't know the answer though. What about if it wasn't actually sold, it was just a collateral? Maybe in that case, she would be able to chaparain. Iksibna le mishkenu, and if I would write that it was set as a collateral, so ishalach li de ein motzin kol shekain machru. So if you would write, well, she can't chaparain for the nedunya from this property that's being used as a collateral, well then certainly she would not be able to chaparain from the property if it was sold. But ishalach li motzin, but if you would send back to me that she would be able to chaparain from the collateral property, akati machru kami bayili, but then what if they actually sold it? I wouldn't know. So echtav le shibdu. So I'll just write shibdu if there was nechasim mishubadim, whether, and I won't write whether it was sold, whether it was just a collateral, and we'll see what he says, and whatever he says will apply to both scenarios. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, and says Rabbi Yochanan echad zeh ve'echad zeh ein motzin, that whether it's for the mizonis, whether it's for the parnasa, whether it's for the dowry, ein motzin, you cannot chaparain. Snai bailu, right? So we saw a machlokus between Rabbi Yochanan and Rebbe. Rebbe said that for dowry they can chaparain, but for mizonis they cannot. Rabbi Yochanan says that for neither dowry nor for mizonis can she chaparain. So ibailu they ask a kasha. Rabbi Yochanan lo shmiya le hadu Rebbe. So Rabbi Yochanan, who's disagreeing with Rebbe, is he only disagreeing because he didn't actually hear what Rebbe said? He didn't hear that Rebbe said that for the dowry she would be able to chaparain, but not for the mizonis? Is it possible that Rabbi Yochanan didn't hear what Rebbe had to say, and if he would have heard Rebbe's opinion, he would have agreed with Rebbe's opinion? Or perhaps shmiyale v'lo mekabele, or perhaps Rabbi Yochanan did hear of Rebbe's opinion, but he simply doesn't agree. Tashma kamanir de'itmai, who stated, Misha meis, you have a fellow, the fellow passed away. V'nech shtei banos uvein, and he had 2 daughters and a son. V'kodma arishona, v'not lo isu nechosim. So you have a guy, and the guy has 2 daughters and a son. The guy passes away. One daughter gets married and gets a tenth of the estate as her dowry. And the second one didn't get married yet, and now the son dies. So now, the father is dead. When the father died, the son inherited the estate. The first daughter gets married. The first daughter gets 10% of the estate. The son dies. Now the 2 daughters divide up the estate equally. Rabbi Yochanan, Shniya Vitra, that the second daughter relinquishes her 10th of the estate. So meaning, the first daughter had gotten married before the brother died, and she got 10% of the estate. Now the brother dies, there's a remaining 90% of the estate. So one way to do it is that they divide up the 90% equally, which means that, at the end of the day, the first sister to get married got 55% of the estate, the 10% that she had already got, plus half of the 90 remaining percent, so that's 55%. And the other daughter gets 45%. Alternatively, we could say that, well, the first daughter got 10%, and if we want to divide up the estate equally, it's only fair to say that the second daughter should get the same amount. So also give the second daughter 10%, and then divide up the remaining 80% equally, i.e. at the end of the day, both of them get 50% of the property. So it says Rabbi Yochanan that that's not how we do it, Shniya Vitra. That the second daughter relinquishes her 10% dowry, they just divide up the remaining 90% equally. the second daughter ends up getting 45% of the property, and that'll suffice for her dowry as well, which would generally only be 10% of the property. Reb Chanina, says Reb Chanina, Gidola mizo amru, motziin lefarnasa ve'motziin lemizonis. Says Reb Chanina, I don't understand. We say that you can chaparain from nechasim mishubadim for the dowry, ve'ein motziin lemizonis, but you can't chaparain for mizonis, for sustenance. Vat omart shnia vitra, and you're saying that the second one is mevater, meaning in a situation where this daughter is getting married and she needs a dowry, but the property was sold, we can go to some other person and grab back that property for the dowry. Here we have a situation where the property is right in front of us. Nobody else took it. The brother died. The property now goes to the two sisters. All she needs to do is say, I'm taking the 10% that is rightfully mine for my dowry. Meaning in a situation where the property was sold, she can go and grab it back from the person who bought it. Here it's right in front of them. Certainly she should be able to just take it, take the 10%. Why, Rabbi Yochanan, would you think that she would simply relinquish it? V'im Isa, now if Rabbi Yochanan had heard of Rebbe's opinion that by the dowry we can chaparain from nechasim mishubadim, namely Rabbi Yochanan should have said man amra. I'm sorry, Ve'im Isa, and if so, that Rabbi Yochanan did not hear of Rebbe's opinion, so then namely he should say to Reb Chanina man amra, whose opinion is that? But he didn't say that, and therefore it must be that he knew that was Rebbe's opinion, and he didn't have to ask whose opinion it was. But maybe really Rabbi Yochanan didn't hear of Rebbe's opinion. And when he did hear about it, he accepted Rebbe's opinion that the nedunya is able to be collected from the nechasim mishubadim. V'shayni hasam, and it's different in the case of the two daughters and the son dies, that she doesn't chaparain the nedunya from the estate, the second daughter, dika revach besa, because she's making such a windfall, right? Meaning, so maybe Rabbi Yochanan did hear of Rebbe's opinion, and when he heard of Rebbe's opinion, he actually agreed with Rebbe's opinion that the dowry you could chaparain from nechasim mishubadim. But the reason why, even though the dowry you can chaparain from nechasim mishubadim, nonetheless, when the father dies, and then the first daughter gets married, and then the brother dies, and then both daughters are dividing up the estate, the reason why the second daughter doesn't chaparain her 10% dowry is because she's already getting such a windfall. Normally she would get 10% of the estate for a dowry. Now she's getting 45% of the estate. She's happy enough with that she doesn't need to get the additional 10%. Amr le Rav Yemar, the Rav Ashi. So Rav Yemar says to Rav Ashi, Elameata, but let me ask you a kasha. Ashkecha metzia ba'alma, dika revach beisa. If she finds just a really expensive object and she makes a windfall, so just because she got a windfall, we don't give her 10% of the estate for a dowry? Amr le, anu revach beisa mehani nichse kaminu. So Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, but I'm talking about a windfall from the estate. That since from that same estate that she would be collecting her 10% dowry from, she's already getting a windfall of 45%. So she's mevata zayin on the 10% dowry. But if she finds some expensive object, that doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't want to get her 10% dowry. All right. Omer Meimer says a Meimer, Bas Yoreshes Havya, that a daughter, regarding her 10% dowry, is considered like an inheritor. It's considered like an inheritor. Omer le Rav Ashi la Ameimar. So says Rav Ashi to Ameimar, well, if that's the case, ilu boyi lisaluka bezuze hochinami tilomotzi lisaluka. Well, if that's the case, that she's considered like an inheritor, does that mean that if the brothers just wanted to, pay her Meaning, as an inheritor, she could choose any property that she wants from the father's estate. And therefore, the brothers would be unable to just, say, hey, take this money. She could say, no, I want a particular property. Right? So, ilubo the saluka, I'm going to read that again. Bezuze, hachinam d'lomotzi the saluka. What if they want to just pay her off with money? That would be impossible. Amlein, he says, that's correct. Ilubo the saluka b'chada ara, hachinam d'lomotzi misalik. Rav Ashi asks Amemar, and what if they would say to her, why don't you take this specific property? They wouldn't be able to say that because she could say, no, I don't need to take that specific property. He says, yeah, that's correct. Rav Ashi Whereas Rav Ashi disagrees and says, no, she's not considered an inheritor. She's considered a bailas chov. She's considered somebody, right, a creditor, somebody who's owed money. And therefore, they can just, pay her the 10% and that's that. Vafa Meimer, Hadarbe, even a Meimer, changed his tune. The Amr Rav Manyomi Brei Rav Nechumi. That says of Manyomi Brei Rav Nechumi. Avakaimna Kamida Meimer. I was in front of a Meimer. Ve'asoy ayi itzu l'kame. And a woman came before a Meimar. The Havis Kaboya isu nechosim. That she wanted to chaperein her 10% of the estate for her dowry. V'chazisi l'daite. And I noticed from a Meimer the iboy the saluka bezuze, that if the brothers would want to pay her money and just pay her money, have a misalik la, a maimer would have been cool with that. The shame me'ache, because I heard from the brothers davuka amrela that they said to her, ilu havalan zuze salikne bezuze, that if we had money, we would just pay you the money rather than give you the property. Ve'ishtik v'lo amalu v'lo and a maimer didn't say anything to the brothers to say actually that wouldn't work. So therefore, it sounds like a Meimer changed his tune to say that it would be fine, that it would work. Okay? So now that we say that she's considered a bailas chov, a creditor, de abo de ache, ho 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 ho. If we say that she's considered like a creditor, is she considered like a creditor of the father, or is she considered like a creditor of the brothers? The manaf kaminu, who cares? Ha 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 ha. Lemigba lebeinunis. Shelo b'shvua v'zibor is b'shvua. Para. That, well, there's nafkaminis. That if somebody is a creditor of the father, well then they have to do two things. There are two limitations, you could say. They have to swear that they are in fact owed this money. And secondly, they can only collect from the lowest level property. But if they are a creditor of the brothers, well then they could say, people, you owe me money, and they don't need to swear, and they could take from medium level property if they're owed money from the brothers. So therefore, if the sister is considered a creditor of the father, well then she would have to, I guess, swear, and she can only get the lowest level properties. But if she's considered a creditor of the brothers, then she doesn't have to swear, and she can chaperein middle level properties. Tashma kamanir to Ravina agbe lebarte le Rav Ashi, that Ravina collected for the daughter of Rav Ashi, be marbre de Rav Ashi from her brother, marbre de Rav Ashi, beinonus v'shelo b'shvua, medium level properties without requiring an oath. Mi bre de Rav Sama bre de Rav Ashi, but from her nephew, because Rav Sama bre de Rav Ashi had died, which means that Rav Ashi, right, Rav Sama's son inherited Rav Ashi. Now she was collecting her nedunya from Rav Sama's son. So basically she was collecting it from Rav Sama, her brother Sama's son, but really through her brother who's dead. So basically she was collecting from Rav Sama, her brother who's the kid's father. So Zibor is b'shvua, and so basically she was a creditor of the kid's father, and therefore she could only collect the lowest level property, and only by way of an oath. Shalach le Rav Nechemi Brei to Rav Yosef the Rabba by Rav Huna Zuta min Ardoya, that Rav Nechemi Brei to Rav Yosef sent to Rabba by Rav Huna Zuta from Nardoya. Ki asya ha'itzo lekamoch, that when such and such woman comes before you, Agba isu nechosim, Afilu meitz tarubla. Allow her to collect her 10% even from like some kind of millstone, which is karka. Ravashi says, Ravashi, Kavinu Bey Rav Kahana, as Rav Kahana have a magbinon, afilu me amlo de beise, we would even be able to collect for the dowry from rent, right? From property rent, right? If somebody owns property and there were rent checks, that rent check is considered like karka, like property, and she can collect the nedunya from there. Shalach le Rav Anon, the Rav Huna, Rav Anon sent to Rav Huna, Huna chavrin, Huna, our friend Shlam, peace. Kiasya ha'itza lekamach, when a certain woman comes before you, agba iser nichse, allow her to collect her 10% dowry. Hav Yosef Rav Sheshes Kame. Rav Sheshes was before Rav Huna at the time when he received this letter from Rav Anon calling him Huna and telling him to allow this woman to collect iser nechasim. Amar le, and Rav Huna said to Rav Sheshes, Zil, go, Eimale, and tell Rav Anon, Uvishamta yeman delo amarle, and you will be in excommunication if you do not tell him the following message verbatim. Anon, Anon. Anon, Anon, mi mekarkoye o mi metaltale. When you say to collect the 10% for the dowry, are you saying from property, or are you saying from movable objects? Uman Yosef be marzicha bereisha, and who sits at the head of a mourner's table? Also, Rav Sheshes, the comment of Anon, Rav Sheshes comes before Rav Anon, Amarle, and Rav Sheshes felt shtickle awkward, as you can imagine. You think he really wanted to go and belittle Rav Anon? No, he did not. But Rav Huna tells you to do something, you do it. And Rav Huna kind of felt, and Rav Sheshes found himself in a difficult situation. Amarle, and he says to Rav Anon, my Rabba, you Rav Anon are a master. Rav Hunan Rabbe, the Rabba, and Rav Huna is your teacher. Vishamuse shamis, and he will be in excommunication. Man delo Amar le. And Rav Sheshes explains to Rav Anon that Rav Huna basically told him, Rav Sheshes, that Rav Sheshes will be in excommunication if he doesn't say the following message verbatim to Rav Anon. V'ilab d'shamis lo v'kamina, and if not for the fact that I wish to avoid excommunication, I would not be saying the following. Anon, Anon, mi mekarkoy v'metaltale. Do you refer to collecting the 10% from property or from movable objects? Uman Yosef be marzicha bereisha, and who sits at the head of a mourner's table? Also, Rav Anon, the comment of my ukva, Rav Anon was extremely taken aback, shaken up by that very direct message from Rav Huna. Amarle, and Rav Anon says to Mar Ukva, Chazi Mar Hechi Shalach li Rav Huna, do you see what Rav Huna sent to me? Anon, Anon. He called me Anon, Anon. Va'od marzicha de shalach li, when he sent to me about this marzicha thing. Lo yadaina, I knew. What's a marzicha? Amarle Emily easy, gufa duv de Echiava, Mar Ukva, that's the horn indicating that it's Shabbos coming. So Rav Huna, so Mar Ukva says to Rav Anon, tell me exactly what happened. Hechi Hava, what happened? Amarle, Hachi Vachi Hava Maise, and Rav Anon says this is what happened. Amarle, and Mar Ukva says to Rav Anon, Gavra del Yoda, my new marzicha, somebody who doesn't even know what a marzicha is, Shalach le Rav Huna, Huna Chavrin, sends to Rav Huna, Huna Chavrin, Huna our friend, and didn't call him Rav Huna. Do you think that that's particularly respectful? My marzicha, what's a marzicha? Avel, it's a mourner. The Ksubis, the pasuk says, Koy Omer Hashem, al tavo beis mirzeach v'gomer. Marzeach v'gomer. Okay? And that's a reference to a mourner. Amar Babo says, Minayin lo avol shemesed barosh. How do we know that a mourner sits at the head? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Evchor darkom ve'eshev rosh. I will choose their ways and I will sit at the head. Ve'eshkon kamelech bagdud. And I will sit like a king on the legion. Kasher avelim yinachim. Like mourners will console. Yinachem acher mashma. We say 1 second. Doesn't Yinachem mean that he will console other people? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Yinucham. It's written Yinucham apparently. Alright. That you will get consoled. Mar Zutra Amar Me'alcha says Mar Zutra from here Visar Marzeh Mirzach Visar Mirzach Sruchim Mar Vazach Nase Sar Lesruchim. I don't know, I forgot what that means. Let me look it up quickly. Let's see. Come on. One who is bitter, Mar Vizach, and detached, becomes a prince of the exalted ones. And I guess he therefore sits at the head of the table. Alright, sounds like exciting stuff. Amar Rava says, says Rava, from property and not from movable objects, Bein lemizone, whether for mizonis, whether for the ksube payment, and whether for the dowry. Alright, what do you want me to tell you? Alright, what should we do over here? Should we go weiter? Probably running out of time. Probably shouldn't do that. It means I have to record more on, I should probably not move weiter, but it means I have to record tomorrow night. Recording on Motzei Shabbos is still complicated, but, what do you want me to tell you? Alright, okay, we're going to pick up from here, you guys, it's going to be part of the same Babylon Talmud episode, but the Maisa, I'm going to have to record the second part of this episode on Motzei Shabbos. Peace out. Don't go anywhere. I'll literally, when you're listening to the recording, it's just going to go straight into the next part. So don't go anywhere. Hamash l'shmos levitoi. So fellow. Okay, right. So we're new Mishnah. So we get the new Mishnah. So now you have a fellow, and he so he leaves some money for his daughter. He's dying and everything, so he leaves money for his daughter with a custodian. He omeris nemun baili olai, and then she says. So now the guy's dead, and now she says to the custodian. Is custodian the right word? 1 second. I think trustee is the correct word. So it leaves the money with the trustee. So then v'omeris nemun baili olai. But she says to the trustee, look, just give the money to my husband. I trust him that when I want it to buy a property, he'll give it to me. So I don't need you to hold on to it. So Reb Meir says, no, the trustee can't give it to her, meaning the father had given the trustee the money to buy her property. He must use that money to buy her property. She comes and says, no, just give me the cash. I'll give it to my husband. And there's nothing to worry about. Whenever I want to use it to buy property, it'll be available. Says Reb Meir, no way, no how. The father, before he died, entrusted this money with the trustee to buy property. The guy must buy property. Once he buys the property, it belongs to the daughter. She can do with it whatever she wants. Rabbi Yossi Omer, to which Rabbi Yossi says, V'chi'ena el asodeh, so Rabbi Yossi says, why skip? Why have to go through this dance, right? Keilu, as we said a second ago, once the trustee buys property for the daughter, then the daughter could do whatever she wants with it. So Rabbi Yossi says, if she comes to the guy and says, just I want the cash, why do we have to say no? We first need to buy a property. Once she has the property, she can do whatever she wants with the property anyways, including sell it and get the cash. So why have to sort of go through this, the technicalities of first buy the property and then give it to her? Once she has it, it's hers anyway. So just, if she wants the cash, just give her the cash. She doesn't first have to buy a property first to be yotzes on. Alright, so if she already had the field, and she wants to sell it, right, then she would be able to sell it. So therefore now as well, just give her the money. When do we say this, that we listen to her? Bigdola, if she is grown up, if she's an adult, but if she is a minor, the actions of a minor are null. Says the Gemara Tana Rabbanon. A fellow who leaves money with the trustee for the use of his son-in-law, likach mein sada, so that the son-in-law can purchase a field, levito, for his daughter. V'omeres yinosnu levaili, but she says to the trustee, right, meaning the father had left the money with the trustee, so that a field will be purchased for his daughter, and she says to the trustee, just give the money to my husband. So look, if she's already married, so then she could do that. But if she's only engaged, so the trustee, right, Reb Meir says that the trustee must do what he was entrusted to do. It's nice when a trustee does what they're entrusted to do. Anyways, so if they're only betrothed, so then the trustee cannot give the money to the daughter. The trustee must do what he was entrusted to do, i.e. use the money to purchase a field for her. Rabbi Yossi, Omer says, Rabbi Yossi Gedola, look, if she's an adult, bein min hanisuin, bein min ha'erisin, harishus biyado. If she's an adult, so regardless if she's only engaged or if she's fully married, it makes no difference. If she's an adult and she asks for the money, she can have the money. However, Ketana, if she's a minor, bein min hanisuin, bein min ha'erisin, whether she's married, whether she's engaged, yaisa shalosh mashlosh biyado. So, if she's a minor, so regardless of if she's engaged or married, she cannot have the money because she's a minor. The trustee holds on to the money and uses it to buy a field. Fine. My benai, what's the nafkamina between Reb Meir and Reb Yossi? Maybe we'll say that the nafkamina is a ketana min hanisuin. That Reb Yossi would say, well, she's a ketana, and therefore she can't have the money. But Reb Yossi would say she's a ketana, she can't have the money. Whereas Reb Meir would say, yeah, but she's married, she can't have the money. The Reb Meir savar harishus biyado. The Reb Meir says that, well, she's married now, she could tell the trustee whatever, to do whatever she wants. But also Reb Yossi lemeimar, and Reb Yossi would say, afilu min hanisuin nami, that even if she's married, still, gedola in ketana lo. If she's an adult, then she can have the money. If she's a minor, then she cannot. But ema seifa. But one second. But the seifa of the Mishnah, the last line of the Mishnah says, ava b'ktana in ma'aseh ketana klum. That when it comes to a minor, the actions of a minor are null. Haman katonila. Who's the one who says this? Is this Rabbi Yossi, who's saying that the actions of a minor are null? Do you prefer null or nil? So when I started programming, I was programming in Ruby. Any Ruby developers over here in Babylon Talmud? Ruby is a gewaltige language. Not particularly popular anymore, I don't think. But there you would write nil. Now I'm primarily a JavaScript developer, and with JavaScript it's null. So I'll go with my current usage, which is null. Null is interesting in JavaScript. The relationship between null and undefined. It's a very interesting theoretical thing. The nafkamina between null and undefined. Null is something, undefined is nothing. But null is something that is nothing, whereas undefined is actually nothing. I think. So ein ma'aseh ketana klum. Well, if we say it's ein ma'aseh ketana klum, maybe the actions of a ketana are undefined. It's getting complicated. Should we just say like falsy? Falsy is like false, undefined, null. Friends, we're getting sidetracked. Ein ma'aseh ketana klum. We'll just go with null. So who's the one who teaches that the actions of a minor are null? Ilim Rabbi Yossi. Well, if you can say Rabbi Yossi is the one who said that. I already know that from the earlier part of his statement, which is the Amr that he says, Rabbi Yossi says, that if it's a field, and she wants to sell it, so then she could sell it. So Gedola, the bas zabinein, tanad la bas zabinehi lo. So an adult who's able to sell something. So it's talking about a gedola who's able to sell something, and a katana would not be able to. So when it says ava katana ein ma'aseh katana klum, so we didn't need to state that for Rabbi Yossi, because we already know that from Rabbi Yossi, because he's talking about selling things, and selling things is dafka by a gedola. So it must be Ela Reb Meir. It must be that this statement is for Meir, and it's missing some words. This is how you teach the Mishnah. That the Mishnah says that if the daughter wants to get her cash, so Reb Meir says that the trustee cannot give it to her because he was entrusted to buy a field, and that's what he needs to do. He can't give her the cash. Says Reb Meir, when do we say this? Mina Erisin, that's only from the engagement. Ava mina nisuin, but if they're already married, harishus biyada, so then she can chaparain the money. But when do we say this? Bigedola. If she's a gedola, ava b'ktana, but if she is a katana, ein ma'aseh katana klum, the actions of a katana are nothing. So we had initially suggested that maybe the nafkamina was a katana who is married, that Reb Meir would say that since she's married, she could chaparine the money, but we just said that Reb Meir is the one who says that ein ma'aseh katana klum, that the actions of a katana are null. So ela gedola mina erisin ikibina. Rather, it is an adult from erisin that Reb Meir would say, since it's only engagement, therefore she cannot chap maran. Whereas Rabbi Yosef would say, yeah, but she's an adult, therefore she can chap maran. Itmar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel says, Rav Yehuda named Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yossi, that halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. Rava Amar Rav Nachman halacha Rav Meir, whereas Rava says in the name of Rav Nachman that the halacha is like Rav Meir because of mitzvah l'kaim divrei ames, because you got to listen to what the nifter says. And if the fellow had said before he passed away that he wants his daughter to chaparain, that he wants the trustee to take the money and buy property, so that's what you got to do. Ilpa, ilfa, ilpa, ilpa, ilfa, 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 ilpa, ilfa, ilfa, ilpa, ilpa, ilfa. Let me look this up 1 second. Apparently it's ilfa. This was a story that we saw in Masechta Tainis. Right, there was a story with Rabbi Yochanan and Ilfa. They were going out to do a gesheft or something, but then like one of them was going to be a great rabbi, and Rabbi Yochanan realized that it was going to be him. Ilfa came back, and I think he saw that Rabbi Yochanan was a great rabbi, and he felt bad because it could have been him. And then he goes and he jumps onto like the maybe it's called a mast or something of a boat, like maybe it's like the big pole or something where like the clothy thing sails. Is that what they're called? Yeah, probably. Like the sales things, and then like he was gonna like kill himself or whatever. So here we go. So Ilfa told Nafshi be scared makusa. So Ilfa jumped onto this like clothy thing, pole, sails, mast, maybe long, high up things on a boat. Sorry. Ilfa told Nafshi be scared makusa. So Ilfa went up on the tall pole thingy, okay, whatever. Amar, and he said, Iyika to Asifa Amar li Milsa Devei, and he said, I challenge anybody, right? Because again, this was at the end of the story where he felt bad that Rabbi Yochanan became the Rosh Yeshiva. He felt, right? I think he was Taka at the time, a bigger Talmud Chacham than Rabbi Yochanan. So he went up onto this thing, and he says, I challenge anybody to bring me a Tosefta, right? Milsa Devei Reb Chia and Reb Shai were the editors of the Tosefta. So he challenged anybody to bring him a Tosefta. And I would be able to bring a support for that Tosefta from a Mishnah. And if I'm unable to find the support from a Mishnah, I'm going to jump to my death. So an elder came, Tanale, and he said, and he raised the following Tosefta. Ha'omer, a fellow who says, Tnu shekel livonai b'Shabbos. So you have a fellow who's dying, and he instructs that a shekel should be be given weekly to his children for food. But the fact of the matter is that to survive they would need a sela. A sela is 2 shekels. So he instructed to give his children every week 1 shekel, but the fact of the matter is to survive they would need 2 shekels. They would need a sela. Nosnin loim sela. So you give them a sela, because mistama, what he intended was for his children to have money for food. So if that's 2 sela, if it's 2 shekels, give them 2 shekels. I.e. a sela. V'im amar al titnu loim ela shekel. But if what he said was only give them a shekel, then a nosnin loim ela shekel. Then you only give them a shekel, you don't give them a sela. V'im amar, and if he says, Imesu yirshu acherim tachteim, and if my children die, so then the next people in line will inherit it. So ben shamar tnu, ben shamar al titnu, then regardless of if he said give them a shekel or only give them a shekel, ein nosnin loim ela shekel, only give them a shekel, because he seems to be indicating that there should be leftovers that will go to other inheritors. So therefore you only give a shekel, because if you give a sela, then it's going to decrease the chances of there being anything left over for other relatives. Omar lei. So Ilfa responded, and he says, Omani Reb Meir. Well, that's Reb Meir, the Omar, mitzvah l'kaim divrei hames, who says that it's a mitzvah to listen to the nifter, the fellow who's passing away, to do what he instructs, and therefore that is why they're saying that we go based on the instruction of this fellow. Omer Chizda, Omer Marukva, Hilchasa, the halacha is ben she'omar tnu, ben she'omar al titnu, whether he said give them the shekel, whether he says only give them a shekel, nosnin loim kol tzorkam, we give them whatever they need. But 1 second, but don't we hold that the halacha is like Reb Meir, that we have to listen to his instructions? So why are we giving them a sela? That's regarding other things we say that we have to listen to the instructions of the fellow who passed away. When it comes to this, when it comes to giving them food, no, he would want his children to have food to eat. So the reason why he said that he's going to give them a shekel and not a sela is because he wanted to inspire them, he wanted to motivate them to go out and grab life by its horns and not just rely upon their inheritance. So he was trying to instill inspiration, motivation, that they should not just rely upon the inheritance, but the fact of the matter is, he wants them to have enough money to have what they need, so therefore they would get a sela. Tanan awesome. We learn over there. Where? I don't know. Gittin. Okay. Ha'peutis mikchon mekach umimkor mimkor. Okay, so these young fellows, like Rashi says 7 or 8 or something, 8 or 9. Okay, so what they sell, B'metaltzin. Okay, when it comes to movable objects. Alright, what do you want me to tell you? Amar Rafram says, Rafram l'shanu ela she'ein lohem apotropos. That's only if there isn't some apotropos, some appointee to take care of their finances. Aval yeshem apotropos, but if there is an appointee to take care of their finances. Wait, how does he define apotropos? This I don't think is a trustee. An apotropos is an administrator, an admin. Okay. If there's an administrator, so then they can't just sell stuff. How come? Is it because we say that the actions of a minor are nothing, are null? Maybe our Mishnah is different, because our Mishnah is talking about where there is a trustee appointed by the father specifically for this. Therefore, we have to listen to the trustee, and we can't trust this minor. Right? But when it comes to an apotropos, when it comes to an apotropos, so maybe the apotropos is really just there, right? The administrator is there to look out for the interest of the kids, and if these kids want to sell stuff, they could sell stuff. So it says the Gemara, if so, listen, No, if that were the case, then it would say that by a minor, the trustee should do what he was entrusted to do. But my ein ma'aseh ketana klum, shma'aminu afilu ba'amud. What does it mean that the actions of a minor are nothing, are null, possibly undefined? So it means even in general. Alright, well, that was Daf Samach Tes of Masechet Ksubis. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.